right?
Yep.
Good afternoon, my name is Miguel COF, and today I'm going to be talking about zoos and how they are harming the animals that they keep. First of all, they fail to provide proper stimuli for the animals that they keep. They provide harmful living conditions for these animals. They take animals out of the wild and use them for attractions for people to see, and they cause premature deaths of the animals that they oversee. Okay, first of all, they fail to provide proper stimuli for these animals. Animals on zoos are seen a lot to be doing stereotypic behavior. This behavior for elephants, for example, would be swaying back and forth. For tigers, lions, and bears would be pacing through their enclosure endlessly. Animals become violent, withdrawn, and or depressed. For example, chimpanzees have been seen smearing feces on the walls, which is something that incarcerated people that are kept under strict isolation do. The Department of Zoology in the University of Krakow in Poland studied different female elephants and concluded that female elephants in captivity spend up to 52% of their time doing this stereotypic behavior, which is swaying back and forth. Oxford scientists studied lions, and they concluded that 48% of all lions do stereotypic behavior because of lack of stimuli and or stress. Zoos are providing harmful environments for these animals to live under. Zoos keep animals under conditions that they would normally not have. For example, the Canadian Zoo Edmonton keeps elephants in colder conditions than they would in their natural Africa or Asia. So, sick and unwilling animals are displayed alongside the healthy animals because they just want to bring in people to observe these animals. Animals are sedated and transported many times throughout their lives based on whoever pays more for them to be there, such as pandas, who are all originally from China, and are rented out to different zoos but never sold, so they will return back to China eventually in their lifetime. Animals that aren't fit, such as animals that are sick or too old, are still bred because zoos require new organisms, especially babies, because that brings in a bigger crowd. Robert Atkinson, Peter Strad, and Les Schobert are all zoo curators, and they went to the San Francisco Zoo. They described this experience as going to a 19th century zoo. They described the chimpanzee exhibit, which was entirely made of concrete, as a third world exhibit. And they described the brand new safari exhibit as having too little shelter and not enough food for all the animals that lived there or that were exposed there. Animals are taken from the wild and stuck into little enclosures just to attract people. Fish and Wildlife, the Department of Fish and Wildlife allowed for 18 elephants to be brought into the United States, wild-caught elephants that had a family and that were in the wild in Africa and Asia, were taken into an enclosure that is less than 10% of what they would walk in a day. Elephants usually walk 30 to 60 kilometers a day, so the enclosures that they are exposed to and they are kept in are far inferior to what they're used to. Zoos cause premature animal deaths. Elephants die 3 times sooner than they would in the wild. In captivity, elephants live an average of 16.9 years. If an elephant is under no human contact in the wild, they will live up to 56 years. And if they are in human contact, which means that they're poached or around a nature reserve, they live an average of 36 years, which is still more than double what they live in captivity. 40% of elephants undergo infant mortality. Infant mortality in elephants is 40%. For polar bears, it's 65%, and for lions, it's 42%. And keep in mind that in the zoos, they don't have natural predators. They are vaccinated against disease, and they always have food, so they die a lot. And there is a distinct correlation between the roaming that the animals do in the wild and how much they die. For example, polar bears roam up to 31,000 square miles of territory, and they die. That's why they die 65% 65% of them die during childbirth. In conclusion, zoos are extremely harmful to the animals that they keep. They fail to provide proper stimuli. They're harmful. They provide harmful conditions under for these animals to live under. They take animals from the wild, and they cause premature animal death. Thank you.
All right, the proposition's identified. It's phrased like it's an informative statement at the beginning. You're going to tell us how they are harmed by being in the zoos. You just want to make the declarative claim, so clean that up a little bit. The contents of the speech are previewed pretty well, although you seem to be rushing through them, and I think you need the numerical signpost to go along with those. When you get to the body of the speech, you start off pretty well organized. I thought your first and second points were labeled very clearly internally in the presentation. After that, though, things fell apart a little bit. I can still pick out some of the things that you set up in the preview, but you want to make sure as a speaker that you keep the audience kind of upgraded and focused, and that's why you need to give us those internal signposts a little bit more. So that's a little bit problematic. There's some good information in the speech that's not cited. There's some information that's cited, and it's okay. I think you need to be a little bit more consistent about doing both things at the same time. There are some big inferences being made from singular examples, but they are good examples that illustrate problems that you're talking about. Let's see. I thought you did a nice job speaking to us for the most part, and you look up. You're not overly dependent on your notes. I like that. Your voice does sound a little hesitant at sometimes. Maybe like you could use a little more practice. All right. Thank you.